Welcome back to the Let's Run Fit podcast. This is the show dedicated to exploring all of the aspects of health and wellness and how to make ourselves better athletes and human beings. Today we have an enlightening episode that is all about uncovering the secrets of sleep optimization and circadian rhythms. Joining us today is the Ayurvedic health and mindset coach, Dana. She is bringing all of her expertise of aligning our bodies and routines with nature's cycles for enhanced sleep, energy, and well-being. We're going to explore the importance of quality sleep in athletes and individuals, so let's get cozy and embark on this journey together. Thank you so much for being here today, Dana. I'm so excited to talk with you because we're going to be going into sleep and circadian rhythms, which is something everybody needs help on. But before we go too deep in, if you could kind of give us a brief introduction of yourself and what Ayurveda is and how it can help somebody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here. So I am a master mindset and Ayurvedic health coach. So for the last 10 years, I've been really helping people incorporate the habits of Ayurveda into their daily lives. So Ayurveda, if you've never heard about it, it is known as the sister science to yoga. So it actually comes from the same place yoga comes from. It's the oldest healing science in history. It's 5,000 years old. And it really is all about how we are connected with nature and how whatever's happening in nature, in the environment, is also happening inside of our bodies. So when we understand our relationship with what's happening in nature and circadian rhythms, then we can actually align our daily routines with these different energy cycles so that we can experience better sleep, better moods, better health, overall health, more balanced hormones. I mean, overall, everything, your body just functions way better when you are living in this way, which is really in alignment with the cycles and the rhythms of nature. So it's really, basic stuff. It's stuff that, we've probably all heard at some point, but it's understanding it in a different way, in a way that you're recognizing how, we're affected by the sun and the seasons and, everything that happens, and how we can start to pay more attention to that in order to take better care of ourselves on every single level.
So I think that's so interesting because we've all heard of circadian rhythms, but we never knew where that really came from. Like we've all been told you need to sleep according to your circadian rhythm. And then we go, well, what is it? And everyone's like, it's some cycle. And that's really where it stops. But you actually have the knowledge of what it is and how to do it, which I think is so cool, which is why as soon as I saw, I was like, we have got to get Dana on here to talk, because it is something I've always wondered. And I know everyone in my family, at least, we all struggle with sleep. Like sleep is 100% never easy to come by for anyone, especially women in my family, even though the men have a lot of issues with it too. So I was like, this would be so interesting because sleep is so important for our bodies, especially. And not only do you know how to make sleep better, you can even make the energy throughout the day better as well, going with these cycles, which I think is so amazing. Like, I'm just so fascinated. Like, you have no idea. It makes me so happy. But we're going to focus a little bit on sleep first. So if you could really just highlight the significance of sleep, and how it promotes our overall well-being, just how it can enhance our health and performance as just human beings.
Yeah. I mean, sleep is probably, if not the most important, one of the most important things that we need to do to just create optimal health. And on, like I said, every level, physically, mentally, emotionally. So there's a lot of things that happen when we're sleeping that are very important. So in terms of just for athletes and runners, that's when all the muscle repair and growth happens. So that's when our pituitary gland excretes human growth hormone. That's when a lot of our hormones get balanced. And that's when all of our organs basically get repaired, and there's a detoxification that happens. Our brains get flushed. So if we don't get, 96% of adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. So most of us really need, at the minimum 7 hours of sleep. And if we're not getting that, then everything starts to break down. So our immune system starts to get weakened. Our hormones get out of balance, which then creates this vicious cycle, because then it makes it harder to sleep, and then it's harder to balance out. It's when, again, we can really rebuild strength and repair muscles, and it's when we can injure, like rehab injuries. What else? Really everything. It also really affects us on a mental level. So I'm sure you've experienced when you've had a bad night's sleep that you're a little bit more irritable. Your moods tend to be kind of all over the place, where it's harder to self-regulate. It's harder to manage our minds. It's harder to focus. It's harder to concentrate. We're more likely to make bad decisions and even just have injuries because our coordination isn't as good, our recovery time, our reaction time. So it really affects us on so many levels. And there's just nothing that feels better than a really, really good night's sleep. Like you feel like you're on top of the world and you have energy and you have focus and you're able to just be at your best, which is, I think, what we all want. We all want to feel like we can really show up as the best version of ourselves every single day. And sleep is a really, really huge and key factor to being able to do that.
I know for me, when I don't get sleep, I also start eating like crazy,
Yes.
and it's never the healthy
Totally.
food. And
Absolutely.
whenever I get a good night's sleep, it's like I crave healthier foods. It's crazy the way
that's such a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Because when you're tired, your body is looking for these quick fixes of energy, which is carbs, because it can take the energy from carbs really quickly. So again, we're gonna crave sugar and, you know, those processed foods and things that just.
Yeah, because it's never healthy carbs you crave when you're tired.
No.
It's the candy carbs, not like the bagel.
Exactly. Yeah. And it can also mess with our hunger and satiation cycle and hormones. So we actually feel hungrier and we don't feel full when we eat, which causes us to overeat. And again, that just creates this whole vicious cycle too.
That's 100% just describing me, like right there. I don't know why, but when it comes to sleep, especially in America, for some reason, it's now a badge of honor to be like, I only need 4 hours of sleep. Like, nope, you need more than that. That's just all you're giving yourself. And you're trying to convince yourself that's all you need. Like, I know I work with a bunch of high schoolers because I teach high school as well. And so many of them are like, I don't go to bed till 1 a.m. I'm like, it's 7 a.m. and you're up, which means you've been up probably since 6. Like that's 5 hours of sleep. No wonder you struggle in class.
Right.
Like they're just like, oh, well, I'm just playing video games and that's more important. It's like, no, sleep is more important.
I know. It's so bad, especially we're so attached to our phones and our devices and our screens, which really disrupts melatonin, which is a really important sleep hormone. So when you get that light, that blue light in the evening, you are not getting that sleep hormone, which makes it so much harder to go to sleep. And you're so hyper-stimulated that also makes it harder to go to sleep. And, you know, all that stuff is designed to get us to stay on those devices as long as possible. So it negatively impacts our sleep on many levels, and it's horrible. So bad.
It's bad. I could have an entire episode ranting about how the world is designing us to be addicted to our phones. They're designing us to be addicted to foods. Like it's literally everything is engineered scientifically to get us addicted to all the things that are bad for us.
Yeah.
Like I could straight be ranting. I could straight rant on this forever. And sometimes I do to people and they're just looking at me like, I get it. Like chill. I was like, but it's so bad.
When it is, but it's so challenging because it is so addictive.
It is.
And so even if we recognize that it's not good for us, our body still gets addicted to it. So it can be really hard to stop.
Like it piles up. Like I remember I looked at a setting on my phone that they have now, because ironically the phones let you know how bad the addiction is, but then they don't do anything to really fix it, of how much time, like shows me how much time my screen's unlocked versus like how much time I'm on certain apps. And I know with my screen unlocked, I have it on like a 10-minute timeout. So it's just normally on. Yeah. But when you actually look at the active time on apps, I'm like, how did I end up on my phone for 6 hours today?
Right. I know.
Because it doesn't feel like it. It adds up so quickly. I think I've mentioned this in prior episodes, like how quickly that time frame adds up. And you're like, whoa, that was my entire day.
I know. It's crazy.
An entire sleep cycle given to your phone.
Yeah. And we complain that we don't have enough time to do the things that we want, or we don't have enough time to take care of ourselves. And I always say, open up your screen time and see how many hours you have time. It's just, where are you allocating that time? But again, it is so hard. And that's a big part of what I teach, is like, we can know something is not good for us, but being like changing it is a whole other ball game.
It is.
And
it's so
that's like so many of us don't know how to actually make those changes and break those habits. And so it's hard. And it is so addictive. So
Yes.
we can want to change it, but not
that's
know
why
how.
I have you here today, actually, is to help us learn, right? Because I need it. Like I mentioned, I don't get good sleep. And now my husband out of nowhere went from sleeping like a log to barely sleeping. So like, this is like the perfect time that I need this information. Like, it's so bad. So going back to circadian rhythms, could you really just kind of talk about what they are? Because I feel like everyone could give a very rudimentary definition, but I'm sure like what the regular Joe Schmo like me on the street says is probably not actually what a true circadian rhythm is. And just kind of tell us how that really regulates our sleep and energy cycles.
Yeah. So circadian rhythms really refer to our biological clocks that run in 24-hour cycles. So circa is cycle and DM is day. So it's the cycle of the day. And I've got an airplane flying above. I don't know if you can hear that.
It happens.
So in Ayurveda, it really looks at like we can basically divide a 24-hour cycle into 6 blocks and 6 energy blocks. And each one of these blocks has a different energy. So when you think of, the sun is highest in the sky in the middle of the day between 10 and 2. So that sun energy affects us on certain levels. So for example, that sun energy is really related to our digestion. So our digestion is strongest in the middle of the day. And most of us eat most of our calories at the end of the day. And that is the first thing I teach in order to improve your sleep. Don't eat late at night and stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed.
I do that.
Yeah. And it's something that, again, most of us are not doing. We're eating, a big dinner, a late dinner, and then we're snacking afterwards. So when you start to put most of your calories in the middle of the day, when your body can fully digest it and use it for energy and fuel and, tissue repair and all the important things that our body needs food for, then we can slowly start to eat less at night and then really build the habit of cutting ourselves off, really at 7 p.m. at the latest for eating. And then we give our body a chance to do that full recovery mode in the middle of the night. Because if we have a lot of food in our system late at night, our body has to use all the energy to digest that food. And so it's not using the energy to repair muscles, to balance hormones, to detox our bodies. So we wake up the next day a little bit more groggy and foggy and tired and inflamed. And it becomes this vicious cycle where every day it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Your first tip is already something I need to fix. I snack until bedtime.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So and I've worked with people where they made that one switch and they've overcome a lifetime of insomnia. So having like a nice big lunch and then having an earlier and lighter dinner, that one change can radically improve your sleep.
And that one has to be hard because for some reason we're taught to eat like this little salad and a sandwich for lunch and then eat like steak and potatoes for dinner.
Exactly.
Like, we're all backwards.
Yeah, totally. Yes, we are. And that's the problem. It's like Ayurveda, like these habits of Ayurveda they make sense when you really understand them, but then we do the complete opposite. So that's what makes it so hard to change, because we are tribal creatures. We do, habits are contagious. So when everyone is doing something, we're just more likely to do something. We do those same behaviors. So it's just such a part of our culture, which can be really challenging to change some of these habits.
Yeah, because you'll go to another example,
and
it's just off.
Yeah. Another example is between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. is when energy is heavier and slower, which makes total sense when you think about, okay, the body is getting ready for sleep. Everything slows down. We need to relax. We need to unwind. We need to ground. But again, this is not what we do. We get in front of a screen that's very stimulating. And instead of bringing our energy down, we're actually bringing our energy up. So again, we're going against these natural cycles, and then it's so much harder to go to sleep. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, and I've noticed this in myself, that it could be like 8:30, 9, and I start to feel tired. And I don't do this anymore because I've really changed my habits over the last 10 years. But as it gets closer to 10, all of a sudden it's like the lights go on, you get the second wind, and not only are you wide awake, but you also want to eat. And so 10 p.m. is kind of this like witching hour where energy shifts from moving down to moving up. And so after 10, energy goes up again. And then if you're staying up past 10, then it's much harder to go to sleep. So then you could be like tossing and turning in bed, versus if you really wind down in the, evening hours, get to bed by 10, and then you get much deeper, more restorative sleep. And they've said that the hours before midnight count as twice as much as the hours after. So we need, to get, those at least 2 hours before midnight are really, really valuable sleep hours. So getting to bed early. And then another thing is just the circadian rhythm really speaks to how our bodies are rhythmic. And I think of like every organ has like a little internal clock, and it turns on certain things and turns off certain things, and it excretes hormones at certain times. So it's really important that we create steady routines around when we wake up, when we go to bed, when we eat. And what we do as a culture is we go to bed at a certain time, around a certain time during the week, and then we go to bed later on the weekend. And it's basically like giving your body jet lag when you do that. Your body doesn't know the difference between a weekday and a weekend. So really the best thing is just to maintain that consistency 7 days a week, as much as possible. And again, you don't have to be on the dot, but like within like a 30-minute, maybe hour range, so that your body does get in a rhythm, and then your body starts to know what's coming and prepares for these different things. So it knows when it's going to eat, it knows when it's going to sleep. And so you can set yourself up for doing those things really optimally.
That is so interesting. I would have never really thought about a lot of those like time frames, especially because of the weekend thing. I do that. I go to bed normally about an hour or two later, and then I also sleep in more.
Yeah.
And on days I don't have to set an alarm, I always sleep in at least like an hour later, but it's because I stay up later, and it's just kind of gets everything out of whack. Cause like my goal is to really try recently to stay on the same schedule, because every time we have a break from school, I like shift into staying up till like 3 a.m. Like, I don't know why. We are night owls in my family, and we always just end up staying up. And then when it's time to go back to, like regular life, I'm all out of whack.
Yeah. And it takes time. Just like, they say in jet lag, every hour off takes a day. So if it's like 2 days, it's like by Wednesday, you're kind of back on track. And then it's just a few more days before you throw everything off again. So your body is constantly having to readjust, and that puts a lot of stress on the body. And again, it isn't able to create that rhythmic living and really support your body in getting good sleep and good digestion and all these really important things.
Are there some people who could have slightly altered like circadian rhythm, or is about everybody the same? Because you always hear about some people are just naturally morning people and naturally night owls. Is that something we have just made up as a culture, or is that something that could actually be like a legit thing in our bodies?
So yes and no. One of the things about Ayurveda is that everyone is different, and there is something called dosha in Ayurveda, which is basically your constitution. There's like 3 main types of body types, and even mental types. So we all need sleep in the middle of the night. So there's actually no such thing as like a night owl. We're not nocturnal. We're diurnal creatures. We evolved from monkeys, and we are meant to be awake during the day and asleep during the night. That being said, there are certain constitutions that need less sleep, and that tend to just have an easier time sleeping. So people with a lot of kind of like earthy energy in them, these are the people, their head hits the pillow and they are out all the way until the morning, and they have deep, long sleep. And then there's other people. I know. And then there's other people that have a lot more kind of lighter constitutions, like a lot more like ether, like space and air qualities, which make them a little bit more kind of high strung, or tendencies towards like anxiety, nervousness. They're kind of moving all the time. They have much more restless sleep. So these people need a lot more of that downtime, a lot more of those like relaxation and grounding practices that help them get ready for sleep, Whereas, the people with a lot of earth and water qualities, they can like watch like a violent movie right before sleep and then just go to sleep and have no problem.
I wish.
So
if I watch that, I get nightmares.
Yeah, me too. I don't like them. So it's important to kind of know what you need and like how much wind down time you need and like how much sleep you need so that you can create your routines accordingly and be able to adjust for those differences. But yes, everyone needs sleep in the middle of the night, and no one really should be awake in the middle of the night. That is more of a habit rather than like something about you. But when you say, you said your family's night owls, it's probably just like you it's that conditioning. So it's that you've kind of programmed your brains and your bodies to do that. But the good news is you can completely program the opposite too. Like I worked with someone. Yeah, I work with someone who her schedule was completely reversed. She would be up until 2 and then she'd sleep until like noon. And we've completely switched that around and now it's fine. So
like growing up, once I got my driver's license, I'd drive myself to school. Sometimes I would wake up for school and my mom would still be awake. Like she would just be working on something. She's like, I work so much better and concentrate better in the night. And then she can never sleep. And to this day, it's always a running joke about like, you can't call her until past like 1 p.m. because you never know if she's going to be conscious or not.
Right.
So hers was she just really got off at some point in her life and just was never able to readjust. I know she's been working very, very hard recently. So if she listens to this, she's probably going to be mad that I mentioned her bad habits, but like she's been trying so hard to like just get out of bed. I think by 11 is the time she's told herself right now. Be like, I'm getting up no matter what at 11, trying to train her body to go back to sleep at a normal time. Because it was always funky because my dad got up at 5 o'clock in the morning for work his entire career. And she would still be awake whenever he got up.
Yeah.
Like, they were reversed.
It's just habituated patterns. It's like you've just conditioned your body for that, but you can change it. But the problem, and this is what I hear, like kind of what your mom is saying, is that she believes that she's her most creative in the middle of the night. So that belief is in conflict to her changing this. So she might feel like if she changes this, then she's going to lose out on that really like creative time. So that's something that I work with a lot of my clients on, to just change that belief that actually you can be creative in the middle of the day. You can create that habit too. It's not like a innate quality and just part of your personality. It's just what you've habituated yourself to do. So it's important to look at, when we want to change behaviors, look at the beliefs that are keeping us at the current behaviors that we have, because until you change those beliefs, you're not going to really change the behavior. And a lot of people try to change their habits using willpower and just kind of forcing themselves to go to bed earlier or, whatever the change they want to make. But if there is an underlying belief that opposes that change, it won't be permanent. They'll kind of go back and forth, and it feels like you're beating your head against the wall. It's like you try to make a change and it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and it's really frustrating. So the kind of coaching I do is working with the unconscious mind, which is where all of our beliefs are stored. And so we need to really change our habits first on the mental mindset level before you can actually change them on the physical and behavioral level.
If someone's in that position outside of just changing like the beliefs, would the kind of like force yourself to get up by a certain time be like a good first step in trying to get your body back?
Yeah. So like I said, the first thing I teach, and there's an order, because sometimes, especially, in the success and personal development world, there's a lot of talk about morning routines and like having these like 8-step morning routines and waking up early. And so a lot of people will start there instead of starting the night before. And like I said, I start with dinner time. So if you can get dinner time dialed, then you already will set yourself up for being able to get tired by 10 p.m. or maybe a little bit earlier. And then once you can get to bed on time, then it's easier to wake up on time. And then when you create that morning routine, it actually sets you up for good sleep, because setting yourself for sleep starts the moment you wake up. It's not just what you do in the evening. It's like getting light in the morning. It's getting movement and exercise in the morning. It's like how you're eating all throughout the day. All these things affect your sleep quality and your ability to get good quality and adequate sleep every single night. So one thing at a time is really, really important, because sometimes we want to change our habits and we want to change, we have like a laundry list of things we want to change. We try to do all at once, and that never works because it's just too much.
So many episodes I have done on that.
Yeah.
Because it is a bad habit of everybody, especially in January. I don't know why the new year, we just think we're going to wake up on the 1st and just be different people. Totally. And then I think it's like January 12th or 14th is like National Give Up Day, because that's the day almost everybody is giving up on whatever they decided to do, because they tried to do way too much.
Yeah,
so definitely. So one thing at a time. When it comes to sleep quality, I have heard a rumor, or might be real, I don't know, that's why I'm asking you, because I feel like you would know, that if you get that morning sun, even if you're just kind of like just seeing the sun in the sun for like 10 minutes, that it can help with your sleep quality. Like, is that also to do with those rhythms and cycles?
Absolutely. So light plays a big factor in our sleep. So it is connected with our hormones too. So cortisol is high in the morning, and that's what allows us to be awake and alert and energized. And then it has an inverse relationship with melatonin. So melatonin is our sleep hormone that allows us to get tired and have good sleep quality. So when you get that morning light, it starts to affect those hormones in your body. And then in the end of the day, you want to do the opposite. So you want to actually turn down the lights. This is why the screen is such a problem, because it's like bringing light. Our body thinks it's daytime. So, you can wear blue light blocking glasses, that helps, or like turn down the lightness on your device, or ideally, get off of it at least, 30 minutes or an hour before sleep. So yes, absolutely. Light has a huge, that really resets the circadian rhythm. Having that morning light for 10 minutes is really good.
Does it matter if it's like direct, you're standing in the sun, or can it just be like you open your blinds in the house and get your day going?
That's a good question. I mean, I've heard that like getting that direct sun is really the best. And I'm sure, the blinds definitely helps, but in an ideal world, in a perfect world, you would definitely go outside and get sunlight in your eyes and on your body, because you have light receptors on every part of your body. And this is why setting your bedroom up for sleep is really important. So making it as dark as possible, even like tiny little lights throughout the room, can affect your sleep, because you have light receptors all over. Even if you wore like an eye mask and there's still light, your different parts of your body is going to feel that light, and that light is going to affect your sleep. So blackout blinds or curtains, sleep mask, if you can't do that, as much as possible, make it as dark as possible, as cool as possible, and as quiet as possible. Or if it's noisy, I lived in New York City for 10 years. So we were used to like a lot of traffic, all hours of the night, taxi cabs honking, garbage trucks, sirens. So we basically like habituated ourselves to use a white noise machine. So that can be helpful too, like any consistent sounds versus like all of a sudden having
like my neighbor's kid playing basketball till like 2 a.m. and making
yeah.
It is an argument every single day of, is this going to be the day that I'm the old lady on my lawn saying, go away?
Do it. Be that old lady.
I'm trying so hard not to be, but it drives me up the wall. Because like you said, it's not consistent.
Right.
They're also not very good. So it's like bouncing off. Like, it drives me nuts. And
I would be that lady. I really would.
I'm about there.
Your sleep is important. And maybe they'll go to sleep and then get the good sleep they need.
It's so crazy.
And be a better basketball player.
Like, I love that they're outside. Like, can we be outside during the day?
Right.
I also love that you mentioned the lights, because that has actually been an argument between me and my husband for years. Because if he closes the curtains on our blackout curtains and he leaves a little gap, like I'm like, no, you have to go do it. And then like, you have to have the bathroom door closed because there's the lights on like his electric toothbrush and like his razor that I see. And then I bought those little, like the little pieces that you put that like dims the light from like the like actual, I cannot think of the word, the fire thingy, the fire alarms, like it has that little light and it flashes and I can see it. And he's like, you cannot see that. I'm like, I can see it.
Yeah. Well,
And then I close my eyes and I feel it. Like, I know it's there. And he's like, if your eyes are closed, you can't see. I was like, yes, I can. I know it's flashing.
Yeah, same. I'm the same. Like,
oh, it's so bad.
And you want to cover up all those little lights because there's, our rooms are usually filled with those little lights from chargers or like alarms or whatever.
I will wake up if his phone screen just turns on. Like if he gets a message some reason in the middle of the night, the whole screen lights up and I will wake up from it and he swears I'm making it up.
Well, the thing is, like, some people are more sensitive to light than others. So he might not be as sensitive as you are. So he might not get that and he might not be affected, but you are. And so it's really important that.
Oh, he's affected because I poke him. Yeah. If I'm awake, you're awake. Like, nope, wake up, fix your phone, figure this out. My mom was like, flip it over, face down. He's like, well, then it's going to scratch. I was like, put it on a sock. I don't care. Like I actually have an old pair of really fluffy socks that I just leave there just for the purpose of putting my phone face down in case something makes it light up.
Yes, I've done that too.
What other strategies and techniques do you have that could really help someone improve their quality of sleep and their duration of sleep? Because I know a lot of people struggle not getting to sleep, but staying asleep.
Yeah. So I would say wearing out your body with exercise. And that, it's like we want to make our bodies tired. If you haven't exercised, you haven't actually made your body tired. So movement throughout the day, but getting, a good chunk of movement. It's really great to move first thing in the morning. You can move again, ideally you're bringing movement throughout your day and like intermittent movement. I would also say that like some sort of mindfulness or meditation, because our mind is also a big part of what keeps us up. If we're ruminating, if we're overthinking, if we're worrying about something, then the more your brain is active, the more that's going to wake you up. So doing something to de-stress and to calm your mind, to quiet your mind is huge and really, really improves your sleep quality so much. And so those things can be part of, your morning routine. And that's what I said. It's like the morning routine can actually really help in your sleep routine. So if you have these practices in place of exercising, meditating, eating healthy food, not, over caffeinating, not having too much alcohol at night, because alcohol can help us sometimes fall asleep, but it really messes with our quality of sleep. So
I heard that one a lot.
Wake up in the middle of the night, often throughout the night when we've had too much to drink or sometimes anything to drink. I mean, again, everyone's going to have a different level of sensitivity to that stuff, but caffeine, only in the morning, not too much. I would say definitely no caffeine after noon. So it's really like the full lifestyle affects your sleep, what you're eating, when you're eating, how you're moving your body, what you're doing with your mind. And having, like, if you tend to be stressed or if you have a stressful job or stressful life, having those stress management techniques, and exercise is great for managing stress. Meditating is really great for managing stress. There's so many different things we can do. And it's important that you find those things that work for you, that you enjoy, so that you keep doing them. And so
I do know when I'm actually on a good, consistent exercise routine, I do start to sleep better.
Yeah.
And then I stop exercising for whatever reason, whether like it was an injury or it's an off season. And then I'm not sleeping good, which then makes me not want to exercise because I'm tired, even though I know if I exercise, I'll sleep better. Like it's always this vicious cycle. So many cycles. Yeah.
And again, it kind of comes back to one thing at a time, and how I coach my clients is starting small. So if you're trying to go from no exercise to exercising, start with like 7 minutes in the morning. And there's a great 7-minute workout that the New York Times put out years ago. And I always send that to my clients because it's like a full body workout. They say it's scientifically created to be equivalent to an hour at the gym. And when it's small enough, your brain's like, okay, I can handle it. I can do 7 minutes. And so that can just help you get back, like get some momentum going. And then once you have that habit in place, it's so much easier to build on it and do more, then go to 10, 15, 20, or, however long you want. But start really small and build that momentum. And then it's easier to build from there.
I love it. I feel like you gave so much advice in one like short little episode here, just of how everything's connected. I think that's like the biggest takeaway is every single thing you do throughout the day does connect. And if you want that better sleep, it's not about the right pillow. It's about, did you get up and see some sunlight? Did you turn off lights in time? Did you not eat in time? Did you move around during the day, or were you sitting on your butt the whole day where your body never did anything? So it's still got like this energy that it's vibrating through. Like every single thing's connected. And just, it's so interesting. I'm so glad that we spoke with you today. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have any like resources or websites or anything, a way someone could connect with you? Because you do coach people to help them with these kind of things. How could someone, find you if they wanted extra help with their sleep and just general energy rhythms?
Yeah, well, I have a mini course that's called 21 Days to Epic Sleep. And it's like short videos, like few minute videos every day for 21 days that really help you stack these habits that will optimize your sleep. So everything that we talked about today, it's just giving you a step-by-step process to follow so that, because it can feel like a lot. I did give you a whole lot of tips, and it can feel like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot to change. And sometimes when it feels like too much, we don't even get started. So having a little bit of a step-by-step can be really helpful. I actually have just a tip sheet that has, I can't remember, it's 10 or 20 tips for epic sleep. So that's totally free. And you can link that up if you want. And and I do one-on-one coaching. So I, work with people for longer periods of time. And I have a podcast. It's called The Pleasure Project. And so I talk about all areas of health and wellness on that podcast. And then you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. I have a website. I've got some blogs in there. So lots of ways to continue to get support and help.
Perfect. I will make sure to get all of that in the show notes for anyone who is listening, who wants to find you to get that extra help or that 21 Days to Epic Sleep course. That sounds amazing. But I appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, runners, for spending time with me and listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a review. I always love to hear from my listeners. And if you want more Let's Run Fit in your life, find me on Instagram at Let's Run Fit with BeLit. Until next time, runners. The information in this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for medical or professional advice. Please always consult a medical professional if you're seeking medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The Let's Run Fit podcast is not liable for risk or issues associated with using or acting upon the information in this podcast.